Hello boys and girls, welcome to Mrs. Bandu's Math Movies. This is for my algebra class, lesson 4-3, solving inequalities using multiplication and division. So we want to use multiplication to solve inequalities and division to solve inequalities. We have these two key concepts to go over. We'll also want to pay attention for the difference when C is greater than 0 or C is less than 0. Okay, so we will need to pay careful attention to that as we go through. Okay, so for every real number, A and B, and for C greater than 0, if A is greater than B, then A times C is greater than B times C. And if A is less than B, then A times C is less than B times C. Okay, so as long as C is positive, the inequality symbol is going to remain the same. So here would be an example. If 4 is greater than -1, so 4 times 5, which is 20, okay, is greater than -1 times 5, which is -5. So it remained true. Similarly, -3 is less than 3, so -6 times 5, which is 30, is going to be less than, that's -30, less than 3 times 5, which is 15. Again, that remained true. Here's the part that you need to be careful about. Okay, for every real number A and B, and for C less than 0, if A is greater than B, then A times C is less than B times C. If A is less than B, then AC is greater than BC. Okay, so let's look. 4 is greater than -1. So 4 times -2, which is -8, is going to be less than -1 times -2, which is 2. So my inequality symbol had to reverse here. Similarly, -6 is less than 3. -6 times -2 is 12. 3 times -2 is -6. So this is reversed. My inequality is reversed to greater than. Okay, this property is also true for greater than or less than, and greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to as well. Just keep that in mind. Okay, now the division property is very similar, except of course we'll be dividing, but we do still have the same conditions placed on the C. So for every real number A and B, and for C greater than 0, if A times B, if A is greater than B, then A divided by C is greater than B divided by C. If A is less than B, then A divided by C is less than B divided by C. Let's look at this. So if 6 is greater than 4, so 6 divided by 2, which is 3, and 4 divided by 2, which is 2, okay, the inequality remains greater than. Similarly, 2 is less than 8, so 2 divided by 2, which is 1, 8 divided by 2, which is 4, 1 is less than 4. The inequality remained the same and did not need to be reversed. Here, though, for every real number A and B, and C less than 0, if A is greater than B, then A divided by C is going to be less than B divided by C. And similarly, if A is less than B, then A divided by C is going to be greater than B divided by C. And again, this is when C is a negative number. Let's look at this. 6 is greater than 4. So 6 divided by -2 gives me -3. 4 divided by -2 is -2. So -3 is less than -2. Because I divided by a value less than 0, it reversed my inequality. Excuse me. 2 is less than 8, so -2 divided by 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1, and 8 divided by negative 2 is negative 4. So negative 1 is greater than negative 4. In order for this to remain true, I need to reverse the inequality symbol. So this property is also true for greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. Okay, so the ones you need to be really careful about is when you multiply or divide by a negative value or a number less than 0. Okay, let's turn the page and look at some examples now. Multiplying to solve an inequality. We want to solve 3 is less than or equal to negative 3/5 x. Graph and check the solutions. Okay, so when I get started here, I'm going to multiply each side by the reciprocal of negative 3/5. The reciprocal of negative 3/5 is negative 5/3. And reverse the inequality symbol. Okay, because what I'm really technically trying to do is divide by 3/5. So in order to do that, remember, to divide by a fraction, you multiply by its reciprocal. So negative 5/3 times 3 is equal to negative 5/3 times negative 3/5 x. Okay, when you simplify, you get negative 5 is greater than or equal to x, or x is less than or equal to negative 5. Again, this is the one that I like to see when I'm graphing, so I'm going to circle that because it helps me. Okay, less than or equal to negative 5. Solid dot at negative 5. To get less than, I have to shade to the left. Okay, and then to check the computation, substitute in negative 5 for x, just to see if you computed correctly, and you end up with 3 equals 3, because the 5s would cross cancel and you'd have negative 3 times negative 1. Okay, so check the direction of the inequality. So what you want to do here is keep your life simple and use a multiple of the denominator. Okay, that way it's going to make your life a little bit easier. So that's why negative 10 was chosen. Okay, when I cross cancel here, this becomes a 1 and this becomes a negative 2. So this gives me negative 3 times negative 2, which is 6. That's where the 6 came from, by the way. And 3 is less than or equal to 6. Checks. Okay, so that's my solution for that one. Okay, let's look at a division. Dividing to solve an inequality. Solve negative 4c is less than 24 and graph the solutions. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to divide each side by negative 4 and reverse the inequality symbol. Okay. So here you see that the inequality symbol, it started out as negative 4c is less than 24. Next step, you're going to divide each side by negative 4 and reverse your inequality symbol. Okay, so you get 4 is greater than negative 6. So that would be an open dot at negative 6 and shade to the right. And you could do a quick check in your head. Negative 6 times negative 4 would be 24, so 24 equals 24. So that tells you negative 6 is the right number where you want to begin your graph. Choosing a number here to the right of this, why not 0? Negative 4 times 0 is 0, and 0 is less than 24. It did not ask you to check your solution or to check the graph and the solution, but it's generally a good idea at least to run a quick mental check just to see if you're in the ballpark at the very least. Okay, and let's look at this one, applying inequalities. Your family budgets $160 to spend on fuel for a trip. How many times can they fill the car's gas tank if it costs $25 each time? Okay, so the cost per tank times the number of tanks is at most the total fuel for the budget, the total fuel budget. So if T is the number of tanks of gas and the cost per tank is $25, it's going to make it 25 times the number of tanks that you can get, is at most. At most means less than or equal to 160. So that gives you the inequality. 25T is less than or equal to 160. You'll divide each side then by 25 to solve for T. And this gives you, I believe it's 6 2/5 in lowest terms. So T is less than or equal to 6 2/5. Now that's not the answer to the question. The question asks how many times can they fill up the gas tank. Your family can fill the car's gas tank at most 6 times. Okay, because it wanted to know how many times they could fill the tank. Okay. So answering that particular question would be 6. Okay, you see several quick checks, and I think they stop, 1, 2, and 3. Please have those completed for the next time we get together. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.